The Necromancer. The Undead. This is Nekros. The Necromancy Warframe. Nekros causes terror and death wherever he goes. His abilities focus on dealing damage to enemies, and keeping pressure off of himself and allies. Nekros' passive heals himself and allies by 5 hit points whenever an enemy dies within 10 meters of Nekros. If you fight in close range, this is a pretty decent passive, but if you fight primarily at long range, it's not going to be as useful for him. However, enough enemies are going to be close by that it's going to activate it, at least often enough. Nekros' first ability is... Soul Punch. Nekros punches an enemy in front of him, launching their soul out of their body as a projectile that deals impact damage to enemies behind them. If the target dies from this attack, it spawns a shadow of that enemy that fights for Nekros for a short period of time. If the target survives, they will instead be marked and spawn the shadow if they die within 3 seconds. Fright is just as necessary for a Necromancer. So naturally, Terrify is Nekros' next ability. Not much to say on this one. Enemies within range flee in random directions and stop attacking. Fleeing enemies have reduced armor for the duration. Pretty simple, not much to understand. Desecrate is one of the main reasons people play Nekros. Desecrate makes enemies killed within its area of effect drop increased loot. This makes Nekros a fantastic choice for farming resources for this ability alone. An added benefit is the extra drops aren't just for enemies killed by Nekros, simply any enemy that dies within its area, making it very useful for getting a lot of extra loot for himself and his allies in things like survival and defense. And enemies that are split in 2 by slash damage also are affected by Desecrate twice, increasing the amount of drops even further. However, each enemy that is desecrated drains a small amount of energy from Nekros, so be aware it will drain your energy fast. Summoning the dark powers he controls, Nekros raises shades of his slain foes to fight for him with Shadows of the Dead. These shades gain increased damage, shields, and health over their original selves, but drain their health over time. They can be healed by healing abilities from allied Warframes. Casting the ability again will also heal shadows and summon them to Nekros' location. The shadows also generate a higher threat, making them good for distracting enemies over Nekros. Eximus enemies summoned by Shadows of the Dead will also retain their Eximus abilities. This makes things like Eximus Leech enemies very useful, as they can keep all of the other shadows' health regenerating for their entire duration, letting Nekros not need to really focus on Shadows of the Dead, and instead use that energy on other abilities. However, that's if you have a Leech Eximus summoned. At rank 30, Nekros has 370 HP, 335 shields, 105 armor, and 150 energy. He unfortunately has no aura polarity. However, he has 1 Matter Eye and 1 Vazarin polarity. Nekros Prime has an additional 220 shields, 35 armor, 40 more energy, and an additional Neramon polarity. Nekros' primary blueprint can be purchased from the market, with his parts being farmed from the Lephantis assassination on Deimos. Now let's see what Nekros can do one last time. Do you fear the dark, Tenno?